Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Steven, Laggy Gamer, and I'm here to finally talk about a game that has been a year and 4 months in the making. A game that I started playing before this channel even came out. And that game is Final Fantasy XIII. I started playing this game, I just checked it when I got the first achievement, and it was unlocked on 3/15/2011. It's now, and I got the last achievement on it, 7/16/2012. I've been playing it for a while. That's how long it's taken me to beat this game, Final Fantasy XIII. I know it's been a couple weeks, so I want to start off and apologize first because I haven't been able to get any videos out there. I've been wanting to pump some more out. I've been done with this game since the 16th and haven't been able to do a video. Things are really busy right now, but I got the wife finishing up her masters and she'll be done in about a week or two. I've been on heavy daddy duty and work duty, but hopefully in a week or two she'll be done with that. We're going to go on a little vacation. When I get back, I'm going to have some help around here, so I'll be able to start pumping out some more stuff and get caught up on some discussions, because I've beaten a lot of games. I just haven't been able to get some discussions out there. So first and foremost is thanks for sticking with me. It's going to start getting better here in about another 2 weeks or so, and I'll start pumping out some more stuff, maybe hopefully weekly or bi-weekly at least, on some game discussions and such, and do some more video responses. I like doing that stuff. But anyways, we're going to focus on this right now. Final Fantasy XIII, the most controversial Final Fantasy game to date, everyone says. Before I get started on that though, I'm going to go over my Final Fantasy history, because maybe that was a good thing when going into this game. I'm not an avid, hardcore Final Fantasy player. I didn't start getting into RPGs recently until about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, so I'm not a huge, hardcore Final Fantasy guy. I've actually only ever completed one. I can give you a brief history. Started off with Final Fantasy VIII. I think that game's 4 discs long, if I'm not mistaken. And I got all the way from what I've read to near the end of disc 3. And I don't know why I stopped playing it, if it was just it's been taken forever and I didn't beat it, or if it was because I got stuck on a boss. I can't remember, it was a long time ago. And that part of my mind's gone. My next game was Final Fantasy X for the PS2. I actually really enjoyed that game, but I got stuck on a boss where I don't know how many hours, and it had to be about past the 20-hour mark. But we were on an airship. All of a sudden this boss starts attacking us in the air, and we're trying to defend the ship. You can use the ship to help you. If this recollects any memories, anyone let me know. But I could not beat that fight. Got stuck on it, turned it off, traded it in. But I really love what I played of it. So Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy X, then finally, when Final Fantasy IV came out on the DS, I picked that up when it was on sale for 20 bucks. And that was the first game, Final Fantasy game I've ever beat. With Cecil and his friends. That was the very first one I've ever beaten. I now have the complete collection for the PSP. Amazing. I really enjoyed that game. But yeah, so that's my history with Final Fantasy. I haven't played any others. Like I own 12, I own 7. I plan on purchasing or trading for 8 and 9 with another YouTuber. So hopefully I'll be able to experience some more. But for right now, I've only beaten 4, and now I have beaten Final Fantasy XIII. And like I said, it's probably a good thing, because from what people said, it's just so controversial. Now we're already about 4 minutes in, or 3.5, but this is probably gonna be a long video. So if you guys you're strapped in and you're ready for it, because I'm gonna try to dumb down the story to make it as simple as I can, but it could be tough. We'll try. I'm probably gonna mess up, but we'll do my best here. I'll try to explain the story for you. But as far as the controversy, I love this game. I thought it was fantastic. It's currently my favorite Final Fantasy, other than I'm actually playing through 13-2 right now, and that's going to overtake it already, I can tell. But anyway, this is about 13. If you want a good explanation on the story, when I picked up 13-2, I bought the Collector's Edition Strategy Guide. And here in the Strategy Guide, they actually have, it's right here, the story so far. They kind of sum everything up there on a good page. It just sums everything up for you. Then I'll go over the characters in the game. And it does a great job at briefly just explaining everything. Because you can kind of tell Square Enix had major plans with this Final Fantasy 13, almost making its own franchise now, because they're coming out. They had 13.2. Looks like we're going to get 13.3 when they announce something in September, but when they release 13, they're shooting so much information out at you. Races, histories, all this stuff is coming at you. Just tons and tons of stuff that you got to read. But it really did seem like they're planning for something bigger. Like this was the first step. So they're introducing you to all the history and everything to get you involved in this world. Kind of like, it's not as big as World of Warcraft, but how they have World of Warcraft in the storyline. Then you got your expansion, and it's just more filler to put more in the story and to get to a finale. And that kind of seems like something they're doing with Final Fantasy 13, you know. They're starting off giving all this information at you, and you have to take it in. And as you're playing through, it clears up, and 13.2, we won't talk about 13.2, but it's just a lot of information to take in. I'll try to get started on simplifying it. Basically, people live on Cocoon. So imagine this planet, Cocoon. We'll call it like the size of the moon. That hovers above another planet called Grand Pulse. The way it works is the people on Cocoon worship these things called the fal'Cie. They're the protectors. And fal'Cie can they provide water and everything to Cocoon. They are what's keeping the planet afloat above Grand Pulse. Grand Pulse, people on Cocoon see Grand Pulse as this place you're not supposed to go. At least what they're being told. You can't live there and stuff like that. Well, back in the day, I gotta rewind again. So like I said, you have fal'Cie. It's already getting confusing, right? Now these fal'Cie can go up to a person and they can mark them. They can give a person a focus. It's like basically God telling you, hey, you have a mission to do this. Like you're a prophet now. This is your mission. Go do this. Once you've completed your mission or your focus, you're said to have, you go into a crystal state, and you have been told you're going to be given eternal life. Whether that's true or not, who knows? When you're a crystal, are you out of body in a heaven somewhere with eternal life? What's going on? Have to play the game, interpret, find out. But that's basically the gist of it. A fal'Cie will come and mark you. Once you've been marked, you are then known as a l'Cie. So you have fal'Cie and l'Cie. fal'Cies are you can call them gods, and the l'Cie are like me being marked, the prophet or whatever. That's basically how stuff you need to understand for the story to make sense. So what happens is, there was a war back in the day where l'Cie from Grand Pulse, people who lived on Grand Pulse, went to war or invaded the people of Cocoon, l'Cie of Cocoon, and they had a little war. But l'Cie, they ripped a hole in Cocoon, but Cocoon's able to be held up and held together by l'Cie now, from what I can tell. And right now, everything's at peace, but Cocoon is ran by a government. Every place has a government. They're known as the Sanctum. And the Sanctum, their way of keeping power and keeping control is telling people like, hey, without us, you won't be protected if there's another invasion. You need us. So this is kind of how the Sanctum is keeping their rule over Cocoon, by keeping them scared that something bad's going to happen. Then one day, a fal'Cie from Grand Pulse comes to Cocoon. And that fal'Cie from Cocoon marks Sarah, which is our main character, Lightning. That's her sister. And everything starts to tumble forward from there. As far as that goes, it's Sarah getting marked, and you have Lightning, the main character. She's wanting to save her sister because she's been marked, which, you know, you get your focus, you don't know what it is or when it's going to happen. It can be years down the road, and you turn to crystal, but Lightning's trying to save her sister somehow from having to fulfill her focus, because she doesn't want her to turn to crystal. But when all this is happening, a fal'Cie has just come to Cocoon. So Sanctum's just flipping out. They're like, oh my goodness, people are going to get infected. It's going to start spreading. The mark's going to start spreading. And they're scaring everyone, thinking there's going to be another war going on. So what they start doing is taking all the people from where Sarah and them live, and they're starting a thing called the Purge. Which means they were collecting everyone because they believe they're infected and want to move them out of Cocoon down to Grand Pulse, which is what they're being told. Little do they know, they're going to basically be exterminated. They're just picking them up to kill them. So that's how the story gets rolling. And that's just the beginning. Yeah, and that just gets the ball rolling. You also have, so Lightning's trying to save Sarah. You meet another character, Snow, who's trying to, when you meet him, he's leading a group of rebels, like trying to fight off the soldiers who are who are part of the Purge to come capture people and keep them from capturing citizens. You have him fighting them off. He's also a love interest with Sarah. You also have Vanille and Hope, they were just kind of caught up in the Purge, just trying to stay away from it. Hope gets a storyline involved with Snow, because Snow's trying to rescue Hope's mom. This is all at the beginning, so it's no real big spoilers. Snow's trying to save his mom, and it's like there's a bridge collapsing. He has her hand, and Hope sees Snow just pretty much not being able to hold on. So he wants to blame Snow for his mom's death, and that's kind of like his story. Wanting to get revenge on Snow throughout the whole game. And then Vanille, she just kind of comes in as this happy-go-lucky, light-hearted girl you don't know much about when you first meet her, but she's just trying to keep Hope's spirits up. You also meet Saz, who is a father in the game. He's like just a light-hearted guy trying the comic relief of the whole game to keep attitudes light. And his son was actually marked too, so he's trying to save his son who was marked. And Fang kind of rounds up the main characters. She's another one who you eventually meet up later on in the game. You don't know a whole lot of backstory with her, but you find out, you uncover more throughout the game. I won't give any spoilers with that though. But anyway, yeah, those are the main of the characters. Eventually, they eventually meet up to where they're trying to save Sarah and Saz's son from becoming turn into crystal. Eventually Sarah does turn into a crystal. Then they all get marked and branded as a C, so they all have a focus they have to achieve now. And it's basically them just trying to find a way to figure out what this focus is. Well, they all get this same picture of a monster called Ragnarok destroying Cocoon. So they're trying to figure out a way to stop it. And also while all this is going on, they're trying to fight the Sanctum, who are leading the Purge. So they're trying to fight them. Headed by the lead boss, Bartandalus. They're trying to fight him. And it all runs out to pretty much this snowballing from saving one person to saving a whole group of people, a whole planet of people, then saving the whole planet itself. So it just keeps rolling and steamrolling. But anyway, I hope that's not too confusing, but that's the gist of the story. I can't really go into anything else because it'll give up major spoilers with the game, but you're just trying to save the world, like every game. Trying to save the world, your planet that you live on. So, but yeah, I thought the characters were great, the story was great. I know a lot of people said they had problems with Hope and stuff at the beginning. He was a little whiny because of his mom's death and anything, but who wouldn't, man? He's sad, and I thought it was kind of silly him blaming a person who was actually trying to save his mom, but I guess from what he sees, maybe it seemed like Snow was throwing her off. How could you get that image? I have no idea. Vanille was the most annoying to me, just her lightheartedness. I don't mind it, but it was just annoying at times. Like, if we're in the middle of a battle, I don't need to hear someone giggling or something about anything. But the characters were great. Lightning, she was really closed up and bottled up at the beginning, but it was awesome seeing her. She's got that tough girl mentality. She's a warrior, and seeing her character develop throughout the game and becoming more open, and her feelings coming out more and more throughout the game were great. Snow, I thought was awesome. He was probably my favorite character. I know my buddy Dustin Christ, and his 13-2 discussion and stuff, lead characters Noel Christ in that game. And he was talking about how Noel's a better fit for Sarah, which I'm about 20 hours into, 25 hours into that game, so there's not much of a relationship there with them in that game, but from what I'm seeing. But Snow, in my opinion, I'm on Team Snow. We can have a battle about that, Team Snow or Team Noel. But Snow's just awesome to me. He's just a self-sacrificing warrior who will do anything. He will sacrifice anything to save the people he loves and the people he cares about. He's willing to throw down his life in a heartbeat for anyone to do what's right. And he's standing up for what he believes in and what's right. And his love for Sarah is unsurmountable. So Noel ain't got nothing on it, Dustin. I'm sorry. It's Snow all the way. So, anyway, Snow's a great character. Saz, he was awesome. It's just a father trying to save his son. You get emotional for him wanting him to save his son. Fang and Vanille, their backstory. Can't go too far into that, but I will say I used Fang in my party a lot. So there you go. She's a good fighter in the game. Who am I missing here? I guess that's just about it with the characters. So yeah, and the story was great. I really loved how it unfolded just a little bit at a time, getting bigger and bigger and bigger throughout the game, and leading into a grand finale. And the ending was really great, really emotional. Really enjoyed the ending. I thought it was fantastic. So, hope that wasn't too confusing, but that's the story. And next we'll go into the second, probably the most controversial thing about the game, and that is the gameplay. So, let's start on that. So the combat. It's still turn-based. I guess controversy comes with the shifting you do in the game. And basically how the game is set up, if you don't know by now, the game is set up where instead of your main character, instead of just being a warrior or a mage or a healer or just having a one specific role, the game lets you branch out. And instead of, like, take Lightning for example, I think she starts off as a commando. That's like the warrior in the game, a commando. A Ravager is like a magician with your black magic spells. You have medics, and you have sentinels that are more of your tanks in the game. You have saboteurs, which do all your de-spelling, your de-protects, your poisons and stuff like that. And you have your synergists, who are like white magic. They do haste, they do shield, they do shell, they do stuff like that. But instead of your one character, like I was using Lightning, just being a commando, you can branch out and put points into different roles. So she could be a commando, Ravager, medic, synergist, whatever you want the character to be. And it branches out and lets you do that with the game. Now each character, when you find them, they kind of have three main roles that they all stick through the game. I believe Lightning's was commando, Ravager, and maybe medic was the other one. I think it was medic, because I remember healing with her, but again, not sure. But yeah, you want to just max out the three roles, and once you've done that, kind of branch out and do the other ones. But what you do in the game is, instead of just going in, say you want to play her as a commando, your second party member's a Ravager, maybe your third party member's a Ravager. So you have a commando, Ravager setup. And halfway through the fight, the enemy shifts, where Ravagers aren't working anymore, so only a commando will work. So what you can do is you just shift to where if your party members are all set up for commando, then bam, you just paradigm shift to that group setting. And how they do it is it's like a grid setup. You set up your party members, your default three you want to do, and then you can set up another formation. I think you can set up 5 or 6 different formations in the grid, and throughout the game, well, while you're battling, you just hit left bumper. I was playing on 360. I hit left bumper, and it brings up the 5 or 6 formations that you put in the game, and you just select one, and boom, they all shift to their new role in the match. I thought that was a really brilliant thing to put in a game instead of just simple. And I love classic turn-based combat. That's like my favorite RPG style, but I just thought it was really fast-paced and action-y because it really got everything moving, and it felt like it was just deeper. Like you could take on more than one role instead of one person just being a warrior. You could be a mage and everything. And it really, if you really sit and think about it, the developers had to put a ton of thought behind this battle system. It's It's not simple by no means, but once you got it down packed, it's really easy. Because a basic commando, they only have about 4 or 5 attacks they can do. So you're either attacking, doing a ruin spell, or something like that. That's not a lot. Ravengers, on the other hand, yeah, you got a bunch of spells to pick from. Fira, Fira, of course you level them up. And enemies will have weaknesses, so you just use whatever they're weak to. So basically the strategy comes into shifting, knowing when to shift to heal, when to shift so you have a tank, so you can put some D-spells on them and hasten yourself up. Use some white magic on yourself. That's where the strategy kind of comes into place. And you really do have to use a lot of strategy and be quick on your feet, especially with some boss battles. And I'll go into a couple boss battles when I'm done with the combat here. But yeah, it's really in depth to me, and I liked how it branched out. And how you level up throughout the game is when you're killing enemies or bosses, you get Crystarium points, CP, and you just put those points into a grid bubble-based mapping area of whatever class you want to level up. And while you're leveling up, bubble will fill up either strength plus 20, magic plus 20, HP plus 20, plus 10, or sometimes you'll unlock a new move. And it's pretty much the gist of it. It's really simplistic as far as leveling, not confusing at all. The battle system, it's not too bad. All you gotta do is picture this. Instead of an old school Final Fantasy where you just hit attack one time for your party member and then be done, yeah, just hit attack 4 times. Or maybe you can hit attack twice and maybe do a ruin spell. Because what you have is an ATB bar. That's pretty much your action bar, letting you know how many moves you can do. And a certain move can cost a certain amount of spaces in your bar. I think your bar can level up to 5 or 6 spaces. Some moves only count as one move, like a basic attack. So you can hit attack 5 times, and that's what they'll do. They'll attack 5 times. Maybe you do an attack and do a Fira spell, which takes up 2 of the slots. So you can do 2 attacks, then a Fira. And I mean, you just balance it out like a gauge like that. Instead of doing 1 attack, you're doing 4 attacks per turn with 1 character, or do 1 big attack. Whatever you want to do. It's really simple once you get the hang of it. And I really enjoyed the option of, I know a lot of people hated it, but the auto battle. When you want to grind, there was one point in the game where I did grind, because I did have a guide for it, and it gave me a heads up saying this might be a good spot to grind, so go ahead and do it. And I did, so I grind for about 4 or 5 hours, and that auto battle is a lifesaver. It saves so much time, especially after you've fought a certain amount of enemies and they're getting repetitive and redundant, and you've figured out their weaknesses. When you use auto battle, it does it all for you because you've already figured out their weakness. So it's a lifesaver, it's a time saver, and it helps with all the repetitive just level grinding you have to do. And even though I did grind some, I don't know if it was necessary, but I never really had any trouble with the game. The only boss I had trouble with was the main boss telling you about, Bartandalus. I think I mentioned him. He's like the head guy of the Sanctum who's causing all this havoc. His second form, second time you meet up with him in a boss fight, I think it's at the end of chapter 11. I don't know. He was a pain in the butt. That was the chapter where I actually did some grinding. I was actually over leveled for the area. I was blasting through everything. I was having fun just dominating everything. I get to him, and halfway through his fight, he has a doom counter, and I could not beat the doom counter. Every time I was dying. Had to figure out the right party. So a heads up, the guide was no help with that. So I had to figure it on my own. Heads up for that fight. Lightning, Vanille, and Hope is who I think I used. Lightning, Vanille, and Hope. Or Lightning, Vanille, and Saz? I think you have Hope in your party at around that time. So yeah, I think I used Hope for haste. Make sure you go into the battle with whatever, I think it's a Forestall, one of the spells, whichever one gives you the haste and the other enhancements when you go in, especially haste. Make sure you have that on. It'll save you a lot of time, and time is important in the game when that doom counter comes up, so just make sure you have that in and go to town on with those 3 characters with Ravager spells, and when you need to, throw on some Saboteur Dispels and Deprotects and stuff on them, and hasten yourself back up. So anyway, and those 3 can heal. So when you get in desperate time and desperate needs, you can switch to the Tri-Medic or whatever and heal yourself up. So there's a little tip there, because that is a tough fight. Even the final boss and everything, that fight there was tougher than any fight in the game for me. So the combat, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. Really kept you on your toes during the game. Only thing I didn't like about it was when you're shifting, if your character's shifting roles, there's a little animation screen, and within that time period you're still getting hit. And going back to that boss fight, I was wanting to switch to medic classes to heal us up, but by the time the animation was done and it was time to heal, I was dead. The character was dead. And if your party leader dies, which whoever you're controlling, Lightning for me, I played through Lightning the whole game, as when I was able to play when they separated, you played with someone else, but played with Lightning the whole time. And if she's down, game over, retry. But if you lose, you get a retry option right then and there. Retry the battle right from the get-go. You don't have to go back to a save point. Really holding your hand. And for people like me, I need my hand held, because I'm not the smartest RPG player in the world. So I like when it held my hand for me. And the linearity of the maps did not bother me at all. I don't like when everything's too wide open and I have no idea where I need to go. I don't want to talk to 15 townspeople just to find out how the weather is and what a beautiful day it is when they have nothing to do with the quest. So I could care less about having the open towns and stuff that people complained about in there. I loved how I could just go through the game getting story. Everything was in a line for me. I could get everything in. And it actually does open up, like everyone said, when you get to Grand Pulse if you want to do some side quests. So not too bad as far as the combat. I loved it. Thought it was fantastic. And along with the linearity, you're going through the environment. I can go ahead and go into the... I thought the visuals were amazing. Like I said, I had it on 360. It's just easier for me to... I would have got it for PS3 because I heard the visuals were probably a little bit better. But I'm not a graphics whore. I could care less about it. So I thought it looked great on the Xbox. The only reason, like I said, I was going to play on it is if any of you other married men are out there in the same way, wife likes to be in the same room together. She doesn't care what we're doing or what's going on, but as long as if we're in the same room together, it's all cool. She could be reading a book, I could be playing a game, as long as it's in the same room and we're within distance. If we need to say something to each other, we're there. So if she's out in the living room, I can take my Xbox 360, got the monitor here, just bring that on out there and set it up. I have the VGA cord for it, slap some headphones on, and play some Xbox while she's watching TV or reading a book or whatever. You have a pretty open space out there, so that's why I did Xbox. There's my excuse for you guys. Or would have got PS3. So I thought it did great on it, handled fine. Couple tearing here and there, but it's no biggie, no big issue. And I thought the environments and everything were beautiful. Seeing it's just my first game that's not like kind of sprite based graphics. I know the DS was 3D-ish, but just seeing a Final Fantasy game like this in 3D with these type of visuals was pretty sweet. It's a beautiful game. So visually, I thought it was stunning. Characters look good. As far as going back to the combat, you can get Eldons in the game, which are kind of your summons of the game. They were okay visually to the eye, but you never needed to see them, so you never got to see them. You could use them in combat, but you never really had to use them, so they were just kind of like a side thing. If going back to the combat, if there was something else to improve upon, maybe put it in there for future ones where you did use them more often or could summon them. But yeah, they didn't play a big role in it, but for what they were, they looked okay. The moves they did looked okay, but nothing out of this world. But yeah, Grand Pulse, when you hit that for the first time and you see the open expanse and everything, the enemies get kind of repetitive as far as it's not the same enemy, but it'll be, well, it kind of is the same enemy. They just change the spells or whatever they do that they'll do to you, or their attack functions. They'll change the color palette of them. But you have a good enemy variety, but not great. Let's see what else. Soundtrack, fantastic. Just entered Dustin's contest for his subscriber contest, and really hope I get that soundtrack because it was amazing. And if not, I'll have to find my hands on it some way. The very last song that plays at the end of the game during the final cutscene, My Hands by Leona Lewis. I'm not into that kind of music at all, but that song, just going with that cutscene that was playing, it was just beautiful, and it made me download the song now. So I got a Leona Lewis song on my MP3 player with my AC/DC and Motley Crue and everyone. So yeah, doesn't really fit in there, but it was a good song. But anyway, visually it was great. Thought the combat was great. Overall, my favorite Final Fantasy. I don't have much to go off though. I am a Final Fantasy noober, so as I'm exploring these worlds and getting to play more, it could change. And like I said, right now I'm playing through 13.2, and I'm having a blast with that one. I'm gonna already say, even though I'm not done, that's probably better than Final Fantasy 13. So 13.2 is gonna be my favorite Final Fantasy game, unless the ending is complete junk. Then it could set it back. But right now, all the little annoyances with this game, as far as the shifting and the linearity that other people are complaining about, but still feels pretty linear to me. 13.2, they're kind of fixing all that stuff, so in side quests. But 13, I thought was a great adventure. You can tell that they're opening up something big with this. They planned way ahead for it to be more than just one game. So if it's 3, 4, 5 games, I'll buy every single one of them if they're just as good as this. And from the looks of 13.2, it's great. I'm trying to think to see if there's anything else I have forgotten. We did combat, we did gameplay, story, visuals, music. I think we touched everything, guys. I know this was a really long one, but I just wanted to shoot the breeze and get all this off my head, because I know this game had a lot of hate. But from the sales and everything I see with it and other reviews, it seems like it does okay. I guess it's the really, really true and prideful Final Fantasy people out there who've grown up with it. But I can't complain really about a video game. It's a luxury to be able to play these games. You don't need games to survive. So when we get a game, I'm not gonna rebel and cry and pout about it. I'm gonna accept the game for what it is, because we're not supposed to have it. It's a luxury, and if you can have it, then it's a good thing you can play games. So people who rant and rave and say they're gonna go away from Square Enix from things or stuff they're messing up, I feel sorry for them. So anyway, I'll end it with that before I start a big old war on my channel. And I guess that's it. You can get this game for cheap now. Give it a try. If you started it and it just draw out too long for you, stick through it. I know the first 7, 8 chapters, you can't even really control a full party yet, but just stick to it, because like I said, they have bigger plans with it. It's not just one game. It's going to span over multiple games with this awesome world that it's just putting out in front of us. So give it a try. Muscle through it. It's a fantastic game. You won't regret it. The story itself is amazing. The combat, you'll get used to it. And you got to beat that, because you can play the better game, which is 13.2. So anyways, I rambled enough. Thanks for watching. Laggy Gamer. I'm lagging out.